Good evening. At this time, I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting of June 19th, 2023. For viewers watching at home, some members of the public may be participating via video conference or teleconference. And at this time, before we say the Pledge of Allegiance, I would like to recognize the Juneteenth holiday and ask the community to join in celebrating this important step in our continuing commitment to value all members of our community. Juneteenth is not only a celebration of freedom, but also one of opportunity, equity, and access. And now it's fitting for us to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Ready?
Pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all.
Will the secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Ferris?
Here.
Commissioner Tyler Kettlehut?
Here.
Commissioner Lanson?
Here.
Commissioner Link?
Present.
Chair McMahon?
Present. Tonight, we have with us Deputy Community Development Director Fabiola Zelaya Mellicher. I'm so sorry. Are there any written comments, announcements, or continuances at this time?
No supplemental packets or additional written correspondence has been received.
Thank you. And I'm guessing we don't have any public comments at this time?
No.
Okay, so we'll move on. Next, item 6, we have the consent calendar with the minutes of the June 5th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. Are there any comments? Do any of my fellow commissioners have any comments or a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I have one small
Yes.
correction, thank you. The top of page 3, the city council did not recess at 7:12. The planning commission recessed at 7:12.
So do I have a motion to approve the amended, corrected minutes, please? Commissioner Lanson?
I would move that we approve the corrected minutes.
Thank you. And can you give us a vote, please?
Commissioner Ferris?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyler Kettlehut?
Abstain.
Commissioner Lanson?
Yes.
Commissioner Link?
Yes.
Chair McMahon?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
I think that's 4-0 with that.
I'm sorry, 4-0. Commissioner Tyler Kettlehut abstaining. 4-1.
Okay. Will the clerk please open the public hearing?
Hearing having been advertised as required by law is hereby open to consider Agenda Item 7A, Proposed Pensfield Place Medical Office Building, Development Permit DP 2022-70002, Protected Tree Permit PTP 2022-70015, and Landscape Plan Check LPC 2023-70002 to allow the construction of an approximately 12,293 square foot two-story medical office building, including hardscape and landscape, the removal of one protected California sycamore tree, and waiver requests for front setback reduction from the prescribed 20 feet to 10 feet, landscape lot coverage and buffer area reduction from 10 feet between proposed building and parking lot area to 5 to 7 feet only on the north side of the proposed building, and an 8% parking reduction for a property located within the Highway and Arterial Business Zone, C2, and find that the project qualifies for a categorical exemption under the California Environmental Quality Act CEQA guidelines pursuant to Section 15332 infill development projects. Located at 420 Pensfield Place, the applicant is Corey Antilla for I-Construction Corporation.
Thank you. Presenting on behalf of staff is Assistant Planner Tabitha McAtee. When you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair McMahon, members of the Planning Commission. The case before you tonight is a request to allow the construction of an approximately 12,293 square foot two-story medical office building, including hardscape and landscape, the removal of one protected California sycamore tree, and waiver requests for front setback reduction from the prescribed 20 feet to 10 feet, landscape lot coverage and buffer area reduction from 10 feet between proposed building and parking lot area to 5 to 7 feet on the north side of the proposed building, and an 8% parking reduction for the property located at 420 Pensfield Place. The subject property is located within the Highway and Arterial Business Zones, or C2 zone. The recommendation is for the Planning Commission to adopt a resolution finding that the project qualifies for a categorical exemption under the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines pursuant to Section 15332 infill development projects, and approving DP 2022-70002, PTP 2022-70015, and Conceptual Landscape Plan LPC-2023-70002, based on the findings and subject to the conditions included in the proposed Planning Commission resolution. The Thousand Oaks Municipal Code requires that every lot in a C2 zone shall have a front yard of not less than 20 feet unless waived by the commission. In this case, the request is for a 10-foot front setback. The code also requires that 10% of open parking and driveway areas shall be landscaped. The Community Development Director or the Commission may allow any landscaped area which would be within an open service or work area and not viewable from any perimeter street, or to be relocated to a more functional location within the other parking areas on the property, provided such relocation does not decrease the total required percentage of required interior landscaping of the parking area. Additionally, Article 43 of our zoning code requires a request for removal of any non-exempt landmark tree that is 24 inches or greater in diameter to be heard by the Planning Commission in conjunction with the Commission's consideration of other entitlement applications for the project, if any. Article 43 also states a permit may be approved when necessary to remove, relocate, cut, or encroach into the protected zone of a landmark tree to enable the reasonable and conforming use of the property, which is otherwise prevented by the presence of the tree. Article 21 of the Municipal Code requires a development permit for medical and dental offices, including urgent care, for developments within the C2 zone. The code allows approval by the Community Development Director if the project complies with all development standards. Since the proposed project does not comply with all the development standards for the zone, the Commission may grant the permit if all the following findings can be made. The project is consistent with the Thousand Oaks General Plan and any applicable specific plan or redevelopment plan. The project complies with all applicable laws, regulations, and policies, including the Thousand Oaks Municipal Code. The project will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, and general welfare, and the project has been reviewed in conformance with the provisions of CEQA. Lastly, the code allows a modification of the parking space and loading zone provisions up to 10% of the requirements should the Community Development Director grant an administrative action. While the 8% parking reduction could have been approved by the director in this case, the minor modification is being reviewed in conjunction with the Commission's consideration of the development permit and the protected tree permit. The associated landscape plan is an administrative process that will be implemented as a project condition of approval. And this is the vicinity map showing the location of the project site. It is located north of the 101 freeway, west of the 23 freeway, and east of North Moore Park Road. And this is an aerial view of the subject property located at the corner of Brazil Street and Pennsfield Place. And some background information for you. In 1974, a zone change was approved to change the subject property zone from C3, or Community Shopping Center Zone, to C2, Highway and Arterial Business Zone, to permit less intensive uses on the subject property that was located adjacent to high-density residential apartments. In 1976, a development permit was approved to allow the construction of a one-story, 4,500 square foot delicatessen restaurant building. And in 1983, major modification 1 of that development permit and a variance was requested to allow the construction of an approximately 600 square foot addition to the restaurant and a waiver of the required on-site parking. The required parking for the site was 60 parking spaces for the restaurant use, which the site provided only 48. The 20% parking reduction, or 12 parking spaces, was being requested and was denied by the Planning Commission. In 1992, minor modification 2 was approved to allow a 10% parking reduction to accommodate the construction of a 486 square foot outdoor dining area for the restaurant building, and there was 56 spaces required, 50.4 required with the waiver, and 51 proposed. In 1995, minor modification 3 was approved to allow the construction of a wood deck in conjunction with the outdoor customer dining area of the restaurant building. A year later, minor modification 4 was approved to allow a 10% parking reduction to accommodate the construction of an additional 700 square foot outdoor dining area and a 433 square foot enclosed patio for the restaurant building. 55 parking spaces were required, 49.5 were required with the waiver request, and 50 were proposed. The setback of the subject patio was only 6 feet from the property line adjacent to Brazil Street per the approved project plan set. Also, the second parking reduction request was not in addition to minor modification 2, creating a 20% reduction. It was only one 10% reduction. And in late 2022, the abandoned restaurant building was demolished. The subject property is now vacant. And here are a few photos of the previous development before it was demolished. This was the restaurant building. And these are more views of the vacant restaurant building. And this photo shows the site today. This is standing at the corner looking at Brazil and Pennsfield. And this view shows one of 2 driveways. This is looking east, standing on Pennsfield. And this is on Brazil Street. This is the second driveway. The project site has a commercial general plan land use designation and is zone C2. The adjacent properties to the north, west, and south share a commercial land designation, while the property to the east is designated high-density residential. And here is the site plan for the project. The proposed 2-story building lot coverage is approximately 21% of the maximum 25 allowed, and the subject property is approximately 0.69 acres. The first waiver for this project is for a front setback reduction from the prescribed 20 feet to 10 feet for placement of proposed building. The second waiver is for a reduction of required 10-foot landscaping buffer between the proposed building and the parking lot area. And this happens only on the north side of the proposed building. And back to the site plan. This exhibit illustrates the required front and side setbacks for the project site. Generally, the front yard is determined by the property line, which has the shortest street frontage. In this case, the frontage along Brazil Street is the shortest and is technically the front of the property with a 20-foot front yard setback applied, showing by the red line. And the Pennsfield Place is the side yard with a 10-foot side red line applied along with the frontage. However, the project has been designed with a 10-foot setback along Brazil Street and a 20-foot setback along Pennsfield Place, as the applicant believes that visibility from the Brazil Street frontage is critical to the success of this project. And, oops, it's off a little bit. So that blue buffer is supposed to be lined up with the building, but that would show the square footage that the applicant would lose if they were following the 20-foot setback. So they're asking for the 10% reduction in order to gain more square footage for the building to make the project economically feasible. And again, these buffers were lined up before tonight, so I apologize. The landscape buffers are illustrated here in green, and that is the 10-foot required buffers in between the building and the parking areas. The one on the north is the one asking for the setback waiver, and it goes from 5 feet to 7 feet. It's required 10 feet, so this little section up here shows the 5 to 3 foot buffer that is asking for the waiver. And here is an aerial of the area. The proposed project was designed in consideration of existing developments in the immediate area, which also have reduced front yard setbacks. Specifically, the plant development permit for the original Mimi's Cafe building was granted a 10-foot setback reduction along Moore Park Road, like the original Sizzler building, which was located at the corner of Brazil Street and Moore Park Road. Additionally, the building, which formerly existed on the project site, included an attached enclosed patio and an attached open patio, which was located 6 feet from the corner of Brazil Street. These 3 developments benefited from having their buildings closer to the streets, allowing for more visibility while screening the parking located in the back and the sides, thus creating visually attractive cornerscapes and pedestrian activity along sidewalks. And these are the 2 buildings that I was referring to. The building on the left is the pad building that is now a Starbucks. And the blue building in the middle is the old Mimi's location, which is now Amy's Drive-Thru. The proposed building totals 12,293 square feet and contains 2 major tenant areas totaling 10,046 square feet of medical office space. Here's the second floor plan and the roof plan provided by the applicant. The project is proposed at a 35 maximum height, which is the maximum height allowed in the code. The tallest point of the building, which are the 2 tower elements you see, are 35 feet. The bottom left photo is what you would see standing at the corner of Brazil Street and Pennsville Place. The architectural design is a modern contemporary and includes variation of horizontal and vertical breaks. The proposed materials include smooth stucco, stone veneer, and an abundance of storefront windows on the ground floor and landscaping buffers, creating a more visually appealing street frontage that will benefit the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed building is compatible with the surrounding developments as the 2-story office use of comparable, 2-story office uses of comparable heights and massing are located north of the project site. The proposed building also introduces a pedestrian scale massing at the southwest corner of the building by bringing only the 1st-story element towards the public right-of-way and introducing the shed roof to transition this portion of the building to the 2nd story. This element introduces an element which has a residential feel and allows the development to physically transition the area from the residential apartment uses, which abut the eastern property line, and the commercial uses, which are located immediately north, south, and west of the project site. And back to the site plan, this is showing the parking. They are required 50 parking spaces. The formula that they follow is the 1 per 200. And they're asking for the 8% parking reduction, and they're providing 46 parking spaces. And here is an exhibit showing the finger planters. The applicant is proposing more than half of what is required. So there's a 50% shade requirement for the California Green Code. And to achieve that, they planted more finger planters and located the trees at the end of the finger planters to create more shade for the parking areas. The removal of the California sycamore tree will accommodate the proposed site improvements. There is a 1 to 3 replacement tree requirement of the same protected species and size. In this case, they would be replacing the 1 54-inch diameter tree with 5 36-inch boxed California sycamore trees, and they are only required to do 2 24-inch box trees and 1 36, and they're doing 5 36-inch in replacement of that tree. The subject California sycamore tree needs to be removed due to its site improvements for the proposed medical use building, which includes grading activities, over-excavation and recompaction, site retaining walls, and required on-site drainage capture and stormwater retention in accordance with the Ventura County Technical Guidance Manual. for stormwater quality control measures. The applicant team and staff discussed their design approaches to retain the tree on the property. In order to make the project economically feasible, the building could not be further reduced in size, nor could the parking lot be further modified without losing additional parking spaces and retaining adequate circulation for emergency vehicles and service vehicles. Staff supports the current design, as other options did not result in projects with better design or projects which retain the tree. And here is the conceptual landscape plan provided by the applicant. That the red tree canopy that you see, that is the subject California sycamore on the bottom of your screen. The requirement for the replacement trees of a protected species is 1-to-3 ratio. And the applicant is proposing 5 36-inch box California sycamore trees exceeding the protected tree requirements. The replacement trees will be planted alongside and rear property lines, shown here in green, along with the other trees to be planted within the parking lot area. These trees will screen the proposed building from adjacent properties to the north and the multifamily residential use to the east. The proposed project will help supplement the urban forest within the geographic area by planting more trees than the required replacement tree ratio, which will grow in stature. Urban forests or community forests help filter air and water, control stormwater, conserve energy, and provide animal habitat and shade. Additionally, the surplus of replacement trees on the subject site will reduce possible urban heat island in the immediate vicinity, providing long-term benefits. The surplus replacement trees in the subject site will reduce urban heat island in the immediate vicinity and provide long-term benefits. And again, this is showing the finger planters, which the applicant is providing more than twice the amount that is required for the zoning code to meet the California Building Code. Staff has determined that the proposed project is categorically exempt from the provisions of CEQA pursuant to Class 32, Section 15332 infill development projects because it meets the following conditions. The project is consistent with the applicable general plan designation and all applicable general plan policies, as well as with applicable zoning designation and regulations. The proposed development occurs within city limits on a project site of no more than 5 acres, substantially surrounded by urban areas, urban uses. The project site has no value as habitat for endangered, rare, or threatened species. The approval of the project would not result in any significant effects relating to traffic, noise, air quality, or water quality, and the site can be adequately served by all required utilities and public services. Additionally, none of the 6 exemptions to the use of the categorical exemption apply to this project. Staff has determined that the proposed project is consistent with the surrounding uses, City of Thousand Oaks General Plan, and zoning designation. With the approval of the requested waivers, the proposed project will comply with the C2 development standards in the municipal code and other applicable laws, regulations, and policies, including the city's architectural design guidelines. The project will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or general welfare because the project does not intensify the existing uses beyond what has been anticipated in the area. And the project provides a better relationship with the street and promotes pedestrian activity along sidewalks and creates a visually appealing cornerscape. Additionally, conditions have been included to ensure the project will not cause disturbance to the neighboring properties, including the multifamily development adjacent to the east. Based on the analysis and findings contained in tonight's hearing packet, it is recommended that the Planning Commission adopt the draft resolution to find the project as exempt from the provisions of CEQA and to approve the project based on the findings and subject to the conditions in the proposed Planning Commission resolution included in today's agenda packet. And I do have one housekeeping item. In attachment 4 of tonight's hearing packet, which is the proposed Planning Commission resolution, condition number 3 should have a use inauguration date of June 19th, 2026, not April 11th, 2026. And that concludes my presentation. Staff as well as the applicant team are available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any, Commissioner Ready?
Just a point of clarification, why are we losing 4 parking spaces? Was it for the finger planters?
Yes.
Any other questions? Commissioner Kilhut? Okay, Commissioner Lanson?
Thank you, Chair. Just a few. I did not, thank you for your report, Ms. McAtee. I did not see any comments from the public as part of the report, and nor do I see any here. I just want to confirm, were there any comments from the community?
Thank you, Commissioner. No, there were no written oppositions, no phone calls, nothing from the public.
Okay. And Commissioner Kilhut went through my first question was, are we sacrificing that? Was the idea was we want to obviously get more of the finger planters to provide more of the ability to put the trees for the replacement trees?
Yes, the replacement trees and to meet the California Building Code of the 50% shaded areas of the parking lot.
Okay. And again, I'm going to kind of do my visual thing. So I'm from what you said that Brazil is usually would have been the front of the street. It sounds like we're just switching it around to make Pennsfield the front, so to speak. Correct?
That is correct.
So would that 10 and 20 feet fit in within the confines if we turn it around, or is it still a little off?
Yes, it would technically. But just
Technically,
the design of the building and the way that they would like, you know, the functionality of the parking lot and the building.
I mean, would it satisfy the 10 and 20 feet if we made Pennsfield the front of the building?
Commissioner Lanson, yes, if you redesignated the front property lines, switched Pennsville as the front and Brazil as the side, it would comply with those standards.
Okay, that's what it looked like, but I wanted to make sure my visual process was accurate. And then in the trees, you said they're doing 5, and they normally would have to do 3. Is that correct? Or is 3 to 1?
Yes, that is correct. It would be 2 24-inch boxes and 1 36, and they're proposing 5 36.
And there's no way to replant that tree or save it in any way?
I believe the city arborist and the applicant's arborist looked into whether or not it's a good transplant candidate, and it would not be.
Okay. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Commissioner Ferris?
Thank you. Help me out with just a little rudimentary understanding for setback, how we're calculating it. So if from Brazil, there is a little outjutting of the building that is 10 feet from Brazil, and is that where the 10-foot setback is calculated for the particular site plan?
Yes, it would be the closest
Okay.
point of the building.
And is it closest based upon ground level, like actual, like the place at the ground of the building?
Yes.
Okay. If I remember the plans right, that there is, at the point of the tree, or the cross-section of the tree, there was kind of a cross-section in the landmark tree report that looked at this. The position of where the building is from Brazil at the point of the tree is roughly 14 feet. Did I read that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the second story is actually juts out sort of vertically toward Brazil. It looked to me like it was at least a couple feet out. Kind of because of the volume of the tree, it sort of would jut out a little bit more to where the tree is. And then there is a shading or grading or something that is at the top of the second floor jutting out further. Do you happen to know how close in the vertical plane that additional jutting out is to Brazil? It looked to me like between 7 to 8 feet from Brazil, but I wanted to get a better understanding of that.
Let us go ahead and look at those dimensions in particular, and then we'll report back.
All right, thank you. And just to confirm also that the size of the tree from the landmark tree report is 68 feet tall, plus or minus?
Yes, and 54 inches.
Okay.
in diameter.
Thank you. Those are all the questions I have at this moment.
Commissioner Link?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ms. McAtee, for your presentation. So I think we might have dispatched with one of my first questions/comments was that if we were to reverse or by the transitive property, switch the front yard setback from Brazil to Pennsfield, then it would meet the front yard setback requirements, correct?
That is correct.
That is correct, okay. And the building coverage is 21% of a maximum of 25%. So it meets within that standard.
Can you repeat the question?
So the building coverage on the lot is 21% of the
Yes.
maximum 25%, so it meets that standard. So I'm curious what sort of, and this, maybe this is a broader discussion, but as far as this project is concerned, what are the standards that are at odds that would then require the reduction of the interior setback from 10 feet to 5 feet or 7 feet in some cases for the parking lot? Will this project, I mean, a good question would be, would this project work without that reduction?
The parking lot would have to be redesigned, and the circulation for the emergency vehicles, that would be affected.
Is that a possibility, or is?
Yeah, well, I'll jump in there for a quick second, Commissioners. So the drive aisle standard is 25 feet wide. That's currently what's proposed on the plans. And then in addition, the 90-degree parking spaces that we have are standard dimensions, and all of those are tucked into the project site as it is. If we increase the amount of landscaping on the north side of the building, it would have to do one of maybe three things: either shrink the access, the driveway access width, if you will, or the drive aisle width, to a standard that'd be less than what our emergency service vehicles could utilize. So that's really not an option in terms of drive aisles. We could relocate potentially compact parking spaces in that location, or angle parking. But if you angle parking, we're likely to lose parking spaces as you go through that process. In our discussions with the applicant team, they also identified that in order for the project itself to be financially feasible, there's a certain leasable space that they're looking at putting on this project site, and they've achieved that with this design. Overall, the landscaping that is on the north side of the building, we are proposing to reduce that by a few feet, but we find that the intent of that landscaping is still being met. It's still softening the building. There's still trees that could be planted on the north side of the building, as well as ground cover. So I think those are the general standards that we're looking at here.
Yeah, thank you.
I just had one question. The two towers that are at the 35 feet, are they purely decorative to give a visual dimension, or are they functional?
Those are the stairwells to the roof for access.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Commissioner?
Thank you. I just wanted to double check things. I'm looking at some of the grading plans and the cross sections there. Is the excavation and recompaction, is it generally limited to the current footprint of the building, meaning that the parking lots are a bit unaffected?
It's for the entire site, actually.
So they're gonna regrade the whole thing, but they're gonna keep
Yes.
the same elevations as the current parking lot? Is that what's happening?
It'll be a similar layout. So generally, yes.
So when I'm looking at the cross sections and it says limits of over X and recompact, which seem to be limited to the building footprint, am I mistaken?
I think generally you're correct. And also too, most of the grading is doing also for drainage. And if you look, it's going to be draining towards the street where the water should be collected. you can also address that question to the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, at this time, it's time for public comments. And first, we'll have the applicant.
Yeah.
Please come to the podium and state your name and city of residence. And you and your team have 15 minutes.
Well, thank you all for being here and for considering our project. I appreciate the time and the time that staff has put in on this for us. My name is Bryce Bryan, and Al Dickens is sitting over there. Together, we are the applicant team, and it's great to be here in our community. My house is 1 mile, exactly as the crow flies, from this property. So I really care about how this comes out. And having raised my kids going to Bata Sushi, and prior to that, some wonderful singing waiters and waitresses at the prior restaurant were great memories. And so we really want to honor this project, this site, with a beautiful building. And I think we've got a design that everybody can be proud of. And it's going to be a great addition to the neighborhood, we believe. The site itself, we operate several other medical buildings in other cities. We have one in Pasadena, and we have one in Santa Clarita. And so the reason that that this works is because we went to great detail to make it financially feasible for us to do the project. And it's right on the border. It is financially feasible for us to go ahead and make the project as we've designed it now. And so we think we've got a winner, and we think it's going to be great for the area, which does have a need for medical office. I know myself, I've lived in Thousand Oaks for 20 years in the Conejo Oaks neighborhood. And for every one of those 20 years, I've driven all the way to Oak Park for my dentist. I would love not to do that, and perhaps we can get him to come over and take one of the spaces. But the building is about 10,046 square feet of medical office. Right now, we have it designed for 10 units. So it would accommodate small medical offices and dentistry, ranging from about 699 square feet to about 1,200. That may change as we go along, depending on what kind of interest we get, but that's how we plan to build it. And again, we think it's going to be a great addition to the community. So unless Al has anything else to say, okay, I think certainly if there's any questions that you have, we're certainly able to respond to those. We've got Corey Antilla, our architect, who's been working so diligently on the project. This was his time, the only time he had a long-term pre-planned vacation, or he would have been here in person, but he's available by video tonight. So thank you for allowing him to appear by video, and we didn't have to interrupt his vacation. So thank you all.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Commissioner Ferris?
Just wanted to thank you very much for coming tonight and talk about your application. So I just want to follow up with you about my last question, which dealt with about the over-excavation and recompaction. It looks like on the plans, it's sort of limited to the roughly current footprint of the building, not really around the parking areas. What's the intent for this?
You know, that is a great question for Corey to answer, and I know he has the answer for that. So I don't know if we can go to him, if he can jump in and give you an answer for that.
I'll defer to the chair, but probably whenever he's available, I can ask that question.
I think he's...
Corey Antilla here. I think the civil engineers at the in person at the meeting as well, but generally over excavation and grading that occurs on the site is throughout. It's not just limited to the building. Over-ex can recompact for retaining walls and I know some of the low impact design, these storm drain systems as well. I think there's some of that goes on there as well. But maybe, I believe Kath, the project civil engineer, can expand on that.
Would you like her to come up? I think she's available.
I would, as I'm still kind of not quite understanding the testimony versus what I'm seeing on the plans.
Okay, if you don't mind coming up to the lectern and then state your name and city of residence for the record.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kath McCunney, and I am the civil engineer on this project. I'm glad you're asking questions. I often come to hearings and I don't get any engineering questions, so yay.
Happy to oblige.
You have a lot? Okay. The over-excavation that is on the plan at 5 feet from the proposed building face is what the soils engineer has defined. My experience is that it seldom goes less than that, but it can go more than that for reasons of this site was previously a building site, and the soils engineer who will be out on site during the over-X process can extend that over-X as needed to aid in addressing the former use of the site, i.e. if they hit part of an old footing or anything like that, they would extend it out further.
Thank you. So help me out to understand. Is the intent then to start with what is labeled on the plans as limits of over-excavation recompaction and reserving the right to expand into the rest of the current parking lot to regrade and compact as needed?
The intent is to maintain the line and grade of the existing parking, but we're going with a concrete finish, whereas previously it was asphalt, okay? And so in cases like that, the soils engineer isn't here. It's not my process, but in normal processes like that, they'll do an over-X of maybe 18 inches in a parking area, but generally not 5 foot deep.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any
Anything
other
else?
questions while she's here? No? Thank you so
I'm
much.
here if you have any further questions. I like engineering questions. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions? Commissioner?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Bryan, come on down. A few of my general housekeeping questions that I kind of go through.
Yes.
So you're going to have this be entirely for medical purposes, right?
Yes.
What is the current kind of status of medical tenancies? I know from an office standpoint, not maybe fantastic. What is the status of medical tenancies these days?
Medical tenancies in the city, there are some spaces available. Many of them tend to be older and a bit run down. We also have an office building in the city that, has vacancy in it, but we think that with the quality of the building that we're going to make, and it's a new building, we think it'll be very attractive to get medical tenants.
And you're not looking, it sounds like, I didn't see things, you're not looking for kinds of medical things that would require environmental type issues. It sounds like it's dentists and other things like that.
Yeah, these are pretty small medical offices, so they're going to be either small medical groups or individual doctors.
And they'll be tenants. They won't actually own their commercial condo, so to speak. They'll actually be tenants, right?
No, we own the property and the building, and we will lease to them.
And we've run into some association issues with regard to that issue. The obligatory question, there was conditions obviously placed on this process. Are you agreeable with all the conditions that were placed within the staff report?
Yes, we are.
And I normally ask a question, but you've kind of already answered in that it seems like you do this for a living. So I'm assuming your intent is to actually build and not flip it. But I would like to know, what is your general, again, I'm not holding you to it, but general timeline that you think you might be able to follow, assuming things go in an ordinary fashion, as to when it would be ready?
Well, I mean, we would like to move as quickly as possible. So once we get, building permits, we've got to go through the process of getting the building permits. But, we would imagine being able to start in the next, we'd love to start in the next 6 months and probably be a year-long building process.
Okay. And my last kind of area was, you heard the question with regard to, I think it was Commissioner Link asked with regard to the landscaping. Could you fill us in as to why you're looking for that waiver?
I know that we had problems just because of the site size, and I know there was a turnaround problem there. And I remember, having several meetings about, well, we could do, the only way we can do it is if we can, shorten that one planter, and then that solved the problem. That, Corey may want to fill in the gaps there, but that was my understanding of why we had to do that and ask for that.
Okay, if Corey is still on the line, is there something you can add?
Yeah, I think it just had to do with it's just the balancing act of, getting the circulation, parking, and square footage to all work harmoniously, along with the, with all the cow green and shade requirements as well.
And if the 10-foot was still imposed, would that make a huge problem with regard to whatever units you were going to put there?
It would reduce, I believe it would reduce parking.
So that would be the end result, is the reduced parking?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Commissioners? No? Commissioner Kittelhut?
I just have a quick question. I love the elements that you've proposed. I think the building elements are beautiful. So like the sheet metal roofs and things like that, it's in keeping with a lot of what we're doing on the boulevard. So we're seeing a lot of that, and I think what you've chosen is really beautiful. So my question is, you said that you've done other medical buildings. With what you've proposed in those buildings to what ultimately was produced, did you pretty much keep in line with that?
Our prior medical buildings we purchased those, so we didn't build those ground up. The other office building that we've done in Thousand Oaks, which is over by the Los Robles Golf Course, we did build that from ground up, and we built it just as the plans showed, as far as I know.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing else, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
And we do not have any other public comments on this?
No.
Yeah.
We do.
Thank you, Chair.
Staff
and
comment.
Commissioners. We just wanted to get back to Commissioner Ferris's question about the cantilevered aspects of the building. So the first floor, we mentioned that the second floor cantilevers over the first floor, there's a 2-foot dimension for that cantilever. And then there's a roof element as well that further comes off the building. It's kind of like an open trellis, if you will, that's cantilevered off the building. That's an additional 4 feet. So a total of 6 feet, if you will, as measured from the ground plane.
Thank you. You used exactly the right terms that I could not come up with on the fly. So thank you for that.
Okay, awesome. Any other follow-up comments?
The only other one that I wanted to share, just to clarify, the amount of landscaping that's on the ground floor in the parking area itself, we just wanted to clarify that they're providing about double the amount of required parking per the municipal code when you're looking at the number of landscape islands that are out there. So there is, in some way, competing priorities here, landscaping versus parking. As we looked at the amount of traffic that is expected to visit the site, especially during a peak period, we do find that there's enough parking provided on site to accommodate the peak hour flows, if you will. And given that the parking lot as designed can accommodate that parking, and we were able to also design additional landscaping onto the site, that's the reason why essentially staff was behind the current design for this parking lot, in addition to requirements like the Calgary Code looking for additional shading in our parking lots. So we just wanted to make sure that those things were clear on the record, since there were questions from our commissioners.
So in other words, the fact that the front of the building has a little bit less landscaping is made up because there's more landscaping with the fingers in the rear of the parking lot?
I wouldn't put it quite that way because we're talking about different dimensionality, if you will, just in terms of the number of parking spaces which are being reduced. The standard parking space being, 8 to 9 feet wide, 18 to 20 feet deep, depending on which size parking space we're talking about. Removing those parking spaces and replacing it with landscaping, that's the trade-off that we're looking in terms of the parking reduction. In terms of the setbacks, essentially one side of the building would have a 20-foot setback, the other one would have a 10-foot setback from the public right-of-way. The applicant team has flip-flopped them, so the shorter setback is along Brazil, the deeper setback is along Pennsfield. If we flip-flop the building, so the deeper setback would be on Brazil and the shorter one would be on Pennsfield, in theory, the building design could be flip-flopped, but it's not always that simple because we're talking about the parking design. The parking lot would have to be reconfigured and whatnot to accommodate that. But again, the design of the building, staff found that it worked and we're supportive of it, especially given the history of other front yard setback reductions that have been approved in this area to try to engage our pedestrian traffic along the street, both on this property down to 6 feet at one point in time, as well as the other buildings that have historically existed in the area, the Mimi's building and the current Starbucks, or what was previously at the current Starbucks location. So I'm hoping that those are helpful to answer those questions.
Very much so. Thank you. Anyone else? You do have an opportunity for a rebuttal if you want to say anything else. No? Okay, thank you. So I will close the public hearing, and I will open up the floor for discussion or a motion. Commissioner Link?
I actually had questions of staff. I don't know if we have to open the public hearing back up.
Okay,
do.
I'm opening
Sorry.
it back up. I'm sorry I missed you.
No, my apologies. Because I'm too lazy, I'll just say that right out, and I haven't been able to look it up, but this is not within any specific plan, correct?
No, it is not.
Okay, so then they are not receiving any credit for on-street parking for their parking counts, correct?
They are not, but there is available street parking on both sides, Brazil and Pennsfield Place.
And as far as setback goes, so I actually tried to look for it in the municipal code, and there is no definition for setback within our municipal code near as I could actually locate. So oddly enough, maybe we need to add that, or maybe it's somewhere that I just couldn't locate. But we are saying that setback is based on ground floor, not any kind of cantilevered element of a building, second floor, third floor, et cetera. So it's just setback from right-of-way or property line to the nearest ground level element.
Stumped.
That is correct, but you can encroach into that setback for architectural elements. Typically, it's 2 feet, and that's what the cantilevered area is, 2 feet on the second story.
I think we dug up that their minimum setback or maximum setback on that second floor on Brazil was 6 feet. So they're actually encroaching 4 feet.
There
into
is, yes, so there is 2 feet additional cantilever of the actual building wall, and then there's an architectural feature in addition to that wall.
So the total setback is then 6 feet.
It
at the
is
second
6 feet,
story.
yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Are there any other questions of staff before I close the meeting again? Okay, the meeting is closed. And now, is there any discussion or a motion?
The public hearing is closed, not the meeting.
Oh, yes, the public hearing. You got me all mixed up here. The public hearing is closed. Let's continue our meeting. Commissioner Lanson.
Thank you, Chair. Identifying the 4 issues as to why they're here. The first being I guess, the juxtaposition of the building. To me, that was a reasonable accommodation in terms of turning the front to the other side of the street, so that I didn't have a problem with. I think it makes sense in terms of how the building is going to be structured and where the parking lot is. The second issue in terms of the landscaping, on the north side, I actually think going towards, again, I want landscaping. At the same point, I want to make sure that we're being accommodating for water and for other things. So I actually didn't mind the less landscaping on that side, especially considering all the other landscaping they're doing, which leads to my third point, in that the loss of the parking is an issue for me, but the additional finger boxes, so to speak, and the additional trees kind of makes up for that and provides, I think, a little bit of a distinction and also a little bit of a, not barrier, so to speak, but something between the other properties that makes sense for me. But the big one for me was the tree. That is tough because it's a beautiful tree and it's a very tall tree. I understand the dimensions of the property and how it's supposed to be. And again, considering the prior uses, that probably makes sense. I think given this current intended use, it probably doesn't. So I am okay with that. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and make the motion. If I can get my glasses, here we go. I would recommend that we find the project qualifies for a categoric exemption under CEQA guidelines pursuant to Section 15332 infill development projects, and move to be approved DP-2022-7002, PTP 2022-70015, and conceptual LPC-2023-70002, based on the findings and subject to the conditions contained in Attachment 4.
Thank you. Any comments on the motion? Commissioner Ferris.
Thank you. I think the applicant, Mr. Bryan, I think probably aptly described this, which is it's sort of on the edge of what we're being asked to do with respect to having the project adhere to city standards and approve permits for its use versus what the applicant has stated as their economic viability about what they want to do and the choices and the constraints that they're kind of putting on themselves in order to do that. I think, unfortunately, because we're on that hairy edge, not everybody's going to agree I'm in a position to where I can't support the motion. I don't think that I've seen enough to where I feel comfortable with the findings for the protected tree permit that it requires removal to enable reasonable and conforming use of the property. And I'm not quite comfortable with providing the finding to accommodate the economic feasibility of it. I think those are choices. Those choices are, again, as the applicant has stated, sort of on the line. But this is a tree that is of average, slightly on the higher end of average health for its species, and it's something that where I think that the previous use of this property had probably half the square foot because it was a restaurant, had a different type of use for it, so it requires more parking for its use. The amount of square footage is not quite, but nearly double that, requiring a two-story building, one that, as designed, impinges right into the canopy of the tree. I think no matter what, if there was an ability to redesign this and not remove the tree, there would still need to be probably a protected tree permit because there would need to be encroachment into the drip line for any of this. But I am not comfortable with supporting the design as proposed, given the choices, the constraints, what we're being asked to approve. So again, like I said, I think the applicant was correct. This is really on the line. I'm just on the other side of it.
Commissioner Link.
Thank you, Chair. I think we're going to be heading into these types of situations where we're going to be having competing interests, and it seems like we have a lot of them, mostly from the standpoint of the project viability. And even from a regulatory standpoint, it sounds like Cal Green so we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, in essence, with the setback reduction on the parking lot side to have more finger islands, to have more parking lot coverage, so I understand that. The parking requirement, well, we need to have more finger islands, so we're going to have to get rid of parking spaces. Luckily for you, you've got a mostly empty street during the day, so there's a shared parking element there that is helpful on both Pennsfield and Brazil, so I'm not particularly worried about that. You're not even using the amount of building coverage that you could statutorily use on this site, so there's so many different things being thrown at the site, and it still sounds like we don't have enough space. And I can't imagine what kind of financing you're going to find in this environment. But, I mean, obviously, that figures in, not my responsibility, obviously, but probably figures in heavily as to what's buildable on this site. The loss of the sycamore tree is certainly a loss, but at the same time, it goes back to that economic viability. You just have too many competing interests here. But in the grand scheme of things, I will actually support the motion because it's a beautiful project. We've just thrown so much at you, whether it's the city or the state, it's almost impossible. So I think you did a good job. In the words of one of our former colleagues, we don't want perfect to be the enemy of good.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? All right, and I have no comments. I will support the motion. So at this point, will the secretary please call a vote?
Commissioner Ferris?
No?
Commissioner Tyler Kettlehat?
Yes.
Commissioner Lanson?
Yes.
Commissioner Link?
Yes.
Chair McMahon?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1, Commissioner Ferris dissenting.
Thank you. Any aggrieved party who wishes to appeal the Planning Commission's decision may do so by filing an appeal with the Community Development Department within 10 days. Thank you for your time and your patience. Item number 8, department reports.
None?
And item number 9, commission comments and AB 1234 reports. Commissioner Ferris.
Thank you. I just wanted to commend the chair for her comments at the top of the meeting regarding the commemoration for Juneteenth. I know that I had brought it up at the end of the comments before. We did receive some correspondence from a resident encouraging the city to honor the federal holiday, which was approved a couple years ago by the federal government. My understanding is that then there was a response, which also said that there's going to be a recommendation going to council about an option for taking a personal holiday on that day. My hope would be that I'd like to encourage that the city actually make it a holiday. In some ways, it's not merely, in my thought, it is not merely a cultural holiday, but an American holiday, one that federal government has made. And it actually wasn't controversial. When it was adopted, the Senate unanimously approved it as the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act. The House, 435 members strong, approved it with a 401 vote majority. So it's one in which it helps us understand the nature of our history and what we have done to overcome it and continue on our self-governing journey. And so by having city offices closed, it allows the whole community to know that, not merely an employee that might choose to take that off. So that's only my comment that I would urge the city in their deliberations to think through. Thanks.
Commissioner Lanson.
Thank you, Chair. I would just say for everybody out there, the beautiful green foliage we have is something that actually could be a problem come November and October. You're seeing lots of insurance companies do things. Please, please do the required removal of any kind of bushes and trees within the 100 feet of a structure. Do everything you can to try to minimize that effect because, again, we're facing an issue that come October, November, if we have a very dry season, we could have a huge problem. And everything you do now to prepare for that will actually help your community then.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from my fellow commissioners? Okay, thank you. Ms. Melcher, are there any follow-up items, announcements, or upcoming issues?
Yes, on June 20th, tomorrow evening, City Council will have a public hearing on the Latigo mixed-use apartments project that Planning Commission heard at our last meeting, and 2 consent calendar items, an EIR consultant contract amendment related to 400 East Rolling Oaks, and the building on-call consultant list. On July 11th, we'll have a study session on an overview of the draft general plan. And to date, the Community Development Department has no items on the July 18th City Council meeting. For items upcoming for Planning Commission schedule, On July 10th, there will be a public hearing for a multifamily residential building located at 170 Herbs Road. The applicant is Ally Management Group, and a department report for an overview of the draft general plan. Also, that will be our last meeting before the summer break. And that is it.
I do have a question. We were all tonight given a copy of the draft general plan. Can the public get it online, or how would the public read this
Yeah.
massive thing here?
Great question. So also, I would like to make an announcement regarding the general plan. The Thousand Oaks Draft General Plan 2045 has been released, and it's available for public review and comment through mid-September. Please visit the project website at www.toaks2045.org to see the draft and give feedback. Also, there will be many opportunities to participate in the process, starting with a meeting held by the General Plan Advisory Committee to review the draft on Wednesday, June 28th, starting at 6 p.m. here at City Hall. The meeting is open to the public. Also, a public workshop on the draft general plan is scheduled for Thursday, June 29th, starting at 6 p.m. at Los Robles Greens. The community will have the opportunity to ask questions and provide feedback, and we hope to see you there. For more information about the draft general plan and upcoming events, please view the project website to stay involved. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will now adjourn to the next meeting, July 10th, 2023, at 6 p.m. Good night, everyone.